Okay, in this video I've centered the artwork right on the 0, 0 point just to give me a reference for the circles. So I'll do this video in two parts, one devoted to the background shape and the lettering, or background shapes and lettering, and then the next part to the paw and the dog. So first of all I'll use my ellipse tool, and I'll click right in the center of the circle there, center of the artwork, click, hold. I'll hold the control key down to drag out to the edge of the inner black circle. Click. The control key was to keep that line horizontal. I let it go too early, so let's do that again. Delete what I've just done. Escape key. Select my ellipse tool once again. Click in the center of the circle. Hold the control key down. Glom at the edge. Release and click again. Now release the control key and push up. So I've got the X and the Y axis of that ellipse. Left click again and hit enter to confirm. Now I just select that. I'll choose my color and stitch type. So we want it to be a tatami fill. And while I'm here, I'll just come into the underlay and change it to a tatami underlay. And under the special, I'm going to change the angle of the stitching to 23 degrees. Okay, so we've got our initial black shape created. Now with our simple offsets tool, select that. And I'm not worried about the spacing. I'm going to change the spacing or the offset of these objects. And I'm going to do two objects, just a run stitch. Okay. Now I'll hit D on my keyboard to hide the drawing. Select the inner circle. And holding the shift key down, drag in so that it sits right on the edge of the filled area. I'm going to duplicate that and just turn the drawing back on. Hold the shift key again and drag that line in to the bottom line of the lettering. Now you can see that the lettering isn't on the same radius as the shape of the actual oval or ellipse. I'm just going to change this to a vector line. I'm just going to use that as a guide. Okay, now the first line, I'm going to change it to a satin column and make it white. And come to special and change the column width to 1 millimeter. And we've already made it white. The second one, again, I'm going to hold the shift key. I'll turn the drawing off again, letter D, shift key and drag in. Just drag it off the edge of that white. Make it a column of satin. And make it black. Now I'm going to resequence it so that that is done immediately after the fill. I'll turn my true view on to see what I've got. Okay, it's an easy way to get a beautiful outline around it. In the original sample that was sent to me, the white line was left as a gap. So I'll just turn the stitches off there. I'll just delete that for the moment. And there was a gap between the fill and the black border. That's never going to work. I mean, the push and pull on the fabric is going to make the gap inconsistent. Okay, so I'll return that. The other thing you can do when you're doing this column of satin stitch, oftentimes you can open the spacing up a little. So up to 110%. Or in fact, because this is a constant width, the auto spacing has no effect at all. So what I'm going to do is turn the auto spacing off and change my spacing to 0.42. Now you'll test that and see if it works. So that's the first part of the design. Let's turn our true view off. I'll travel to the beginning of the design and then move through by thread trim. Okay, so I've got a thread trim between those two black pieces. It's not what I want, so I'll select them and hit J. That'll realign my start and finish points. Do the check again. Okay, so we've got a thread trim there, so I'll grab both of those, come to my connectors, and say after each object's finished, let it travel 4mm before it trims. And do the same with the tie off. Okay, do the test again. So at the beginning of the design, right click on the scissors, so it's gone through all of the black without any thread trim, and then puts the white on top. So that's the first part of the design, really easy. Make one shape and just use your border tool to make the borders. Okay, the next thing I want to do is the lettering. Now this is problematic. M for measure. And those letters are only 2.17mm high. It just won't work. So let's test a couple of fonts. You're better off not to go for these serif type fonts for very small lettering. But we'll type the letters in. Whoops. Can't type this morning. Then enter. I want an empty line. www.reeselanyards.com. And a very good font for semi-serif is Flares. So I'll come down the list till I find the Flares font. And I'll make it 4mm high, and I'm going to choose a predefined baseline. You'll see why in a moment. Come back and create text. Come to the center of the circle again and click. And now this is the same procedure as we made the first shape. I'm holding the control key down, click, release the mouse and then release the control key and push up onto that guideline that we created earlier and click. So that's why I created this first guide, to give me a line to work to. If I followed the baseline of the letters in the artwork, there wouldn't be enough gap here. It just wouldn't look as nice as it does with an even spacing all around. Turn my true view back on. Now we're really struggling here. I think that's still too small. That 4mm is the height of the capital letter. If we select both word objects and try and sneak the size up a little, let's say 4.7mm. No, probably too big. 4.2. I mean, this lettering has to be a compromise. We can't do it exactly the same as the artwork because it's simply too small. I think I would run a test on that. Just before I do, go to my fills and I'll change the auto spacing to 100%. Just remove a few stitches, check my pull compensation. I'm pretty happy with 0.17 there and our underlay. I'll just do a single, so I do it by segment and a single center run, no second underlay. Turn my drawing off, true view back on, and I'd run a sample with that as it is. Okay, in the next part of the video I'll do the dog and the paws.